Hey guys, this is Great Wit North coming at you with episode 10 of my Transistor playthrough. So, unfortunately, this episode's going to be recorded post-commentary. I'm pretty bummed out about it, but I lost the audio from my commentary during the recording. So, yeah, I'm pretty bummed because post-commentary is always kind of awkward. You're trying to remember stuff that happened. You lose the element of surprise when you see something new. It's just not as exciting for you guys, so I apologize for that, but I figure this is better than nothing. And since we're reaching the end of the game, it's important that I cover sort of the stuff that we're seeing near the end here. So we're going to go in this episode and see if we can finally find Royce and see if we can finally, figure out why he's put the process out on the city and what his plans are.
You go first. Yikes. Spawning season.
Yeah, this room
Watch your step when we walk right
scared
out.
the shit out of me when I first came in here. I thought for sure I was gonna have to fight like a million things, or at least collect all these cells, but it just seems to be sort of a breeding ground and they're just hanging out doing their thing. No big deal.
Bye, ladies. Whew.
So here I noticed it says Moil P, and these trace particles, it seems to be where...
Here's where we found one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, it seems to be where we found one of the dead people and got their trace. It's kind of just converted into this process structure.
What?
For the combat, I'm just going to try and stay quiet. I'm not going to be able to remember every single little move that I made during the combat, so it'll probably just make more sense for you guys just to watch and see what I do. You can see I'm setting up my Void Crash Bounce, which is
Let's fly.
become my favorite combo.
Listen, jerk.
That combo works so well because Void weakens them, lowers their defense, Crash
Boom.
lowers their defense even more, and then you finish them with a heavy hitter like
What do we have?
Bounce, and it does a ton of damage. So here I'm just kind of reading about Tap. I can see it's regenerative and leeching, and yeah, it seems pretty good. I believe I went with an upgrade slot here just to power up sort of that combo that we've been using. I'm not sure which one of these I picked. I believe I picked the corrupted cell on Legacy, which actually probably was a good choice in the end. I was really nervous at the time though that picking one that spawns, corrupted cells that I wouldn't be able to get would just make the fights way too hard. That didn't turn out to be the case.
Back to the promenade.
It's kind of a cool little
Still
scene
on.
here.
Your posters. Hey, they like you. They really like you.
So yeah, once you finally get in their way of taking pictures of the poster, that's when they start freaking out. And fighting with all this black stuff on top, it makes it ridiculously hard to deal with, so I was just kind of laying down fire everywhere, hoping to hit them all. Which seemed to work fairly well. These guys aren't too bad to deal with. I apologize if the post-commentary is just not as enthusiastic. It's kind of hard to be enthusiastic about stuff that I've already seen and, excited, compared to when you're actually playing it and it's all tense. I'm definitely going to be taking steps in the future to make sure that I won't have to do any more post-commentary. Clean them up fairly easily. Not too bad.
The shit is wrapped.
Got a trophy there. I never checked what that was for, but it might have been to do with just that little scene.
Last time we were here, I knew it could be worse. By a lot. I just wasn't quite sure how. Comfort in knowing. Makes things simple in a way. We get to Fairview. Find our man. Take it from there.
Sounds pretty straightforward, but a little trickier than that.
Mood lighting.
I don't know why I thought I could destroy that just randomly.
Check the terminals are going up.
Well, we're definitely checking the terminals.
Terminal thinks you're in charge.
So root live summary. It's an OVC diagnostic suite. So I wasn't really sure what that meant. Maybe just sort of you can check.
Maybe it's right.
Yeah, you can check sort of different things on how the city's going.
Tell us something we don't know.
Yeah, so I basically looked at that one and it said this terminal isn't working.
Surprised they'll still work.
So here's another one of those processed.
Lady we found here. Body's gone, but her trace is with us.
The processed structures from the traces left behind.
Anything else before we head up?
This was a pretty cool little feature that they put in.
This isn't a vote. It's a choice.
It's got some cool story attached to it too, actually, when you think about it, because it shows that, like the sky painting, the administrators had the ability to control pretty much everything in the city, including the weather. So I think I picked placid snowfall. It just seemed like it would be appropriate.
A little snow should match the decor.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that looks pretty cool, actually.
You got the key to the city.
Just some more art flair that they threw into the game. So yeah, there I slapped on that last limiter, the one that spawns the corrupted cells. Usually I blaze through sort of setting up my abilities pretty quick, so doing post-commentary on that's going to be kind of tricky, but I'll do my best to sort of follow along. Basically, whenever I lose the chance to use Void Crash Bounce, that combo, I just try and make do and try and make it as similar to that as possible. I pretty much do that from here on out, because that combo is by far the best thing that I've used so far in the game. I slapped ping onto crash just because crash is already kind of quick, but I'm using it all the time too, so
we can still get through.
Makes sense.
Hello, world. world. You don't look so good.
This is one of the few games that I've played where I've wanted like screenshots of almost every frame just to like, put up in my apartment as paintings.
Expecting us.
It's just beautiful.
Look out.
These guys are a
They want
pain in
to
the
tag team.
ass to deal with because, as you can see from their status there, they've got speedy and stealthy. So, obviously the speedy ones are zipping around all over the place, but the stealthy ones are the biggest pain in the ass because you can only hit them in a very, very small window when they're about to attack you. And they spawn, their attack is spawning enemies, which are essentially bombs that come after you. So while you're fighting them, you also have to deal with taking out these projectiles. It only takes like one hit of pretty much anything to take them out, but it wastes a lot of your stop time just dealing with them. Yeah, and I can't see that guy there. Even the speedy ones, I can't even hit him because he's still in stealth mode.
No, you don't.
So yeah, you can really only hit them when they launch one of these bombs. So you gotta really position yourself really well in these fights. It definitely took me a while to get into the groove of fighting these particular enemies.
Had enough yet? Surprise.
And I don't think I was able to get to that. See, you saw that one cell pop, and that is the corrupted cell. So it looks like a regular cell, just with like a little bit of difference around it, and they actually explode, so you gotta kind of stay away from them. But I didn't get that one in time, so I've got to deal with this guy all over again. It also took me a while to realize that the haircuts, you knock them back, but then they explode quite a radius, so you gotta be really careful when you hit them to take them out, or else you'll take a lot of damage. So we lost bounce there, but I still felt pretty confident that with just Void and Crash, I'd be able to do enough damage. Void and Crash by themselves, that's actually a pretty decent combo in and of itself.
Wouldn't want to wind up like them. Okay, let's go.
At this point, an 18% experience boost from the limiters is pretty huge. I mean, I feel like at this point in the game, you'd be a way lower level if you didn't have that.
There's the alley. Hey, look.
Begin. This is Royce Brackett of the Camerata, communicating via proxy. I am calling for a truce. See, I'd very much like for the process to, well, stop doing what it's doing. And my conjecture is you'd very much like that too. Assuming I am right, then come along and we'll sort this out. Maybe we can sort this out.
We'll see about that.
So Royce has actually come to talk to us first before we got to him. So now we're kind of following his lead, which seems really sketchy. If he's already been directing all of this stuff and now he's directing us. Oh, here's where the guy that's in the Transistor, our boyfriend, this is where his body, where he died off, or where the Transistor hit him. So that's been processed as well. So now we're kind of right back at the start of the game.
The Transistor. What can it do? What can it really do? Well, it can build a bridge. For example, that's something. People want a bridge to Fairview, sure. Why not? It's settled. Have a beautiful new bridge. It's good for more than just bridges, of course. Why, it can make just about anything happen. Really.
So here you see, now that we've got sort of control over these terminals, it's asking if we want to take a vote to build the bridge, and we basically just, rig the vote, and then the bridge is able to be built. I find it interesting that Roy says the transistor can really do anything. I mean, in this game, it's never totally laid out what the true abilities of the transistor are. You see some of them, but
This better work.
it's never completely spelled out for you.
Wow. You asked for it. You got it.
So that's just more indication that,
Fairview.
there's a huge ability to control this area, even building things instantly, controlling the weather.
Let's go meet Royce.
The process can't be stopped. Can't be stopped. However, process could be impelled to simply go away. Take its business elsewhere. And we'll be well enough alone. As for the town, we'll have ourselves a blank canvas. And as for the transistor, we'll have ourselves a brush.
So again, it's kind of alluding to the transistor having this vast amount of power to change things and do all sorts of crazy stuff. I also thought the use of the word impelled was strange. I don't know if I've ever heard that ever used. I would think compelled to leave would have made more sense there, but I'm not an English major. So here I'm just trying to figure out something to slot in there instead of bounce. Pretty sure I end up going with breach just because it's kind of just some straight damage and I can hit multiple people with it. I really don't like the idea of that get ability as an upgrade or even as just a straight ability, because I tend to not want to draw enemies into me in this. I'm really just struggling to figure out which one I want to put on there. I think I do end up going with stealth eventually. Yeah, I think I go with it as yeah, I think I put it on Jaunt just to make Jaunt even more useful in its defensive abilities. With all these limiters on, you really got to be defensive when you play this game.
So this is Fairview. Farther from town than I thought.
I find it interesting that Fairview's been made out to be this amazing resort
Where
island,
are we supposed to?
and
Oh,
it turns out it's just completely processed and one of the most processed areas. I didn't actually mean to go through that door. There was some stuff I probably could have looked at up there, but I thought it was just going to be
Trying times. Very trying times these days. Graham and the others, they've gone ahead without me now, haven't they? Just you and me now, isn't it? You and me. And the transistor.
Royce comes across as very unstable. Like he's definitely got some mental issues.
yeah. I got nothing.
We had a saying, which goes, when everything changes, nothing changes. You see? When everything changes, nothing changes. But all this isn't what we had in mind.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on here. It's just part of the process, making things crazy, I guess, like distorting reality. Took me a while to figure out how to actually get through this part because my view is so messed up.
Town isn't looking any better from this angle. There's the door. To something. Better. To Fairview.
So we got some more of these men to deal with.
Hanging back this time.
Men and their haircuts.
Time for more.
For a while, these haircut things really freaked me out. I wasn't like completely sure the best way to deal with them and manage my sort of the percentage of my time stop. So you'll see me through the video start to understand it and get better and better at it, but it takes a while. These fights are against these particular enemies, I definitely think are the most sort of awkward fights that you have to deal with. Which makes sense, that we're getting towards what seems like the end anyway, so they're gonna really try and make you think. There, I'm just trying to figure out what will do more damage, if it's just void crash, void crash, void crash, or void crash, breach, which I think I end up going with it eventually.
Other one showing his face.
So I definitely want to get that cell. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that. One-on-one, they're pretty easy. They're not too bad to deal with. But, I mean, most enemies in this game are pretty easy to deal with one-on-one. So here, yeah, you saw, I hit the haircut. But when it flies across, as soon as it lands, it does damage. So I still hadn't figured that out yet. So that's why I took a huge chunk of damage there.
Made it.
The process, it's just doing a job. Doing its job. Though I much preferred it when the process did mine. But our old friend Grant, I mean, I let him borrow it. And well, anyway, here we are.
So that basically says that Royce is the one that either created the process or found them somewhere and learned to control them. And then he met Grant.
Go for it.
And let Grant sort of take use of the process.
We knew we'd have our detractors.
Alright, so we got some ability rearranging to do here, because now we don't have bounce or void, so things got kind of interesting here. I think I tried to make use of tap in this fight coming up. It's an ability I haven't used at all yet, so I was just experimenting with it.
What we were doing was wrong in the traditional sense, in the contemporary sense.
More.
My thinking was that tap is like kind of a vortex like void, so I could kind of use it in the same way, but as you'll see, that doesn't really turn out to be the case.
That's a new one.
So here I start making use of backstab damage, which proved to be pretty invaluable against these enemies.
Got him good.
You only have so little time to hit them, such a small window, that you want to maximize as much damage as you can get.
The rest should go quicker.
You'll see John with the stealth ability is really useful when getting away from those haircuts, because they actually lose track of you for, you know, half of a second every time you use it. So it lets you get pretty far away from them. I think I was waiting to use tap until I had taken some damage. Yeah, there I took a ton of damage from another exploding haircut, so. I think I was worried about the corrupted cell blowing up if I hit it, so. So here I'm gonna try tap to see what kind of healing it does. And as you can see, it really doesn't heal that much. Considering how much of your turns it takes, I don't know. I don't know if it's really worth it. It seems pretty situational to me. You're probably better off just being defensive and taking more damage over a little bit of health you can get from that.
That was rough.
That was very rough.
Gotta keep going.
Not sure which one I brought in on this one. Purge is awesome, so I slapped it onto Breach just for even more damage. Then I must have put stealth and get or switch. I don't like the idea of pulling any of the targets towards me, so yeah, went with the bad cell ally. Again, pretty much for defensive distraction purposes. The architecture in this room is crazy. It's like some sort of temple or something.
Let's fly. Everyone always said you could be anything you want in this town. This is it for me. I could get used to this.
There's these traces inside the transistor. Everyday people once upon a time, but now, well, not quite themselves. And they're trapped. No walls in there, mind you. It's just, they're on their own. Listen close enough and maybe you can hear them. Some of them, I mean. The ones you know.
Drink some coffee here. Ah, delicious.
Just a bit farther.
I think here I just kind of checked to see if there was any new inspect functions that we could look at. Oh, I decided to change my mind. Oh, it's because we got bounce back, so I wanted to rearrange everything back to get bounce in as our main damage ability. In hindsight, I probably should have slapped Purge onto Bounce. Oh, I did. Okay. Never mind. If I remember correctly, this was a pretty tricky fight. It's kind of a narrow area to maneuver around, and there's a bunch of these guys.
These ones aren't hiding, at least.
So we take that guy out. Then I think I just wanted to get away just to avoid any AoE damage. You can see it's actually Purge that's doing that final bit of damage there. Definitely want to make sure I got the cell. And I think get out of there. You see how much damage those haircuts do when they explode. Like, pretty much 2 hits and you've lost an ability. Would have been nice if Royce could slap a little shield on me like he's got for his little TV dog there. Yeah, see, that was a really stupid move because I basically shot that haircut while I knew I was going to be within range of it exploding. So that's what made me lose bounce there. And now really all I've got is just, I can just crash and crash and crash. And then dodge and dodge and dodge.
Damn.
I love that they put that in. Just going berserk with the transistor and he calls you out on it. Yeah, so basically the rest of the fight is just gonna be me trying to do this. Just slam him a bunch, then get away. That was terrible defense by me. I should have just been jaunting away from it. So now I got one ability left, which should be enough to deal with this guy.
Yeah.
So just barely got through that fight.
If Royce can hold him off, so can you.
Barely.
Next. That a terminal?
Got an encrypted archive here.
Whatever Royce sees in this place, I don't.
So it's a private message pretty much directly from Royce. Last read 1 year ago.
Whenever people make a change, whether to the sea or the sky or anywhere in between, the process does the real work. Invisible, behind the scenes. Well, I say whoever does the real work ought to get the credit. So I found a way to put the process center stage, a way to keep the process working in concert, in harmony.
Okay, so we have from Royce to Grant. Not a good format for debate, but there is no debate. We know the requirements. Low registered population density, access to civic resources, I do need light from time to time, distance from administrative centers. And so they're trying to figure out basically a location to have a base of operations. His little dialogue there at the start, too, is pretty revealing. It says that all these changes that you can see in the city happening all the time are because of the process. And then he figured out a way to actually manipulate them to do even more for them. So, as you can see, they decided that Fairview, because a bridge hadn't been built to it yet, was the perfect location. It met all those criteria.
Don't like it here. Bet this leads somewhere other than here.
Yeah.
The Transistor. I have no idea what's inside it, really. Who or what. I've my theories. Well, that's really all they are. It's just theories. I've seen inside. Had myself a little look. But I didn't see much at all. It was like staring at the sky.
So he's actually been inside the Transistor, and he obviously got out.
Bright lights back there. Maybe it's Royce. Let's never do that again.
This town, it changes shape all the time, right? Bridges, parks, highways rising and falling. Rising and falling at the people's whim with the changing of the seasons. Even the seasons, they're just whim. Why, I guess I grew weary of it after a while. Things changing all the time. All the time.
No views like that in town.
Sounds like there's a bit of audio skipping on the actual game audio track, so hopefully that stops, but if it doesn't, I apologize for that, guys. I don't think I'll be able to cut that out because I had to do some stuff to even save this game audio.
Finally.
So here I'm just trying to rearrange and figure out something that I can do to deal with the fact that pretty much my main combo is non-existent right now.
Come on out.
Yeah, that audio skipping's really annoying, guys, but hopefully you stick it out. I mean, the story gets really, really good. And I promise the next episode it's clean. I know I've already actually played through that episode, and everything's there. So stick it out. So again, this is another one of those like narrow combat spaces, which makes it really tricky to deal with. I've got Luna out here, which is actually kind of risky now that I think about it, because she's blowing up the haircuts. I don't know when she's going to take them out or where, so I have to watch her to make sure she doesn't just blow them up in my face. Alright, well, it sounds like the audio skippings might just come in and out, so that's a lot better than I thought. We dealt with that fight pretty easily.
Clear. Which way?
See what TV Dog has to say.
I knew Grant half my life. Principled, persuasive man. Very persuasive. I'll miss him. He appreciated my work. Supported my endeavors. The Camerata, it was his idea. I was all for it. All for it at first. But then, well, I'd say the rest is history, but that's not quite the case.
So yeah, Royce was actually working on the process stuff before the Camerata were even put together, which is really interesting. So Grant basically talked him into joining, and then basically took advantage of all the work that Royce was doing to further the Camerata's purposes.
Grant Kendrill's rooftop hideout back in High Rise. That was for damage control. He wanted to save people.
Alright, so we got Grant Kendrill's information here. So background. More than 94% of voting adults in Cloudbank agree that administration is necessary to the city's infrastructure and its continued day-to-day operations. A similar percentage also wants no part of administrative responsibilities, other than to exercise one's personal right to vote on or otherwise contribute to pertinent social issues. Most administrators like it this way. In the long-standing tradition of their role, they endeavor to keep things running quietly and smoothly, intervening as little as possible while facilitating as much as possible. As public servants, administrators are beholden to their constituencies through this time-honored system. It is a system that Administrator Grant Kendrill decided to subvert. So basically all of that good stuff before, that's not what Grant did. He was sort of against all of that. Went against the flow, so to speak. So I went left here, and it turns out that was sort of the good choice for the first one, because there's just a terminal here. It's another message from Royce.
Where I found it, where I found it, why? I found it on a lark, right around here, geographically speaking. Although geography was only one small factor, there was also the math. Awful lot of math involved. Wasn't entirely myself when I found it, you might say. Sometimes I think I didn't find it at all. More like the other wise around. You understand? Maybe it was looking for someone like me.
Yeah, so Royce definitely has sort of the mad scientist thing going on. So he says, tonight I'll be going in again. This time I'm 100% positively certain. I've figured it out. Tomorrow you will see it too. Exciting times, exciting times. So I think he's talking about going into the actual transistor there. And it sounds like he had to do some pretty complicated mathematical and physics stuff to figure it all out. But I think that's just sort of left to interpretation. So soon we will celebrate, he says at the end there.
Either way, now you're stuck with it.
Just some background information there.
Other way now. Hey, look.
Alright, so we got a back door here, so I decided to go back to the beach for a little bit and see what's waiting for us there.
Get the feeling we won't be coming back here for a while.
I got that feeling as well, so I wanted to knock off whatever I could. Here I threw on sort of my favorite song so far on the soundtrack.
Had just about enough for Royce's lectures back there. But if he says he can make the process go away, I guess we gotta hear him out.
Alright, so we got some test stores to look at. So I decided I wanted to knock off as much of these as I could, tackle that one that we were having trouble with before, which was the performance test, I believe. So decided to go in and check it out and see if we can do round 2 of it and deal with it. So we're going with bounce and crash, going with what we know, because we have such a small amount of memory for the first wave. Spoiler alert, guys, I actually do end up making it through all 9 waves this time, so don't worry, this doesn't turn out to be a huge waste of time like last time. It wasn't easy though. Some close calls, that's for sure. My most hated enemy by far in the game are these fetches. Oh man, they're brutal. It's good though, like there's no limiters on in these tests, which, you know, after playing through that actually makes them seem not too bad. Certain aspects of it don't seem too bad. So we're sticking Purge onto Bounce because we know how good that is. I think the biggest difference when I did this test compared to last time when I failed it is I was way more aggressive this time. I basically went at everything that popped up right away and just tried to dish out as much damage as I could, take everything out as quickly as possible. It was way more offensive than defensive this time around, which seemed to be what worked. You'll see like I'm making some pretty quick decisions. I'm not really running around trying to figure out what to do. I'm just picking a target, going for it. I think I go for the turn planning with Breach here, just because that's pretty invaluable in these tests.
Hey, look, it's those.
So yeah, again, as soon as they pop, I'm going for them, not letting them do really anything. Now between the fetches and these guys, the creeps I think they're called, this is where stuff starts getting really tricky because you have lots of damage being thrown at you. But with Bounce Purge doing its thing, we can dish out even more damage, so.
Wanna fight?
Yeah, and the performance tests, quick decision making and utilizing whatever combos of abilities you know is super important. So I'm just kind of looking at the best use of ping. Having a bit of trouble deciding what would work best. But we slap it on crash in the end. The cluckers get kind of annoying in this test as well. The fetches, those are the ones I'm targeting the most, and I'm just kind of trusting bounce to do any more damage to the surrounding enemies that it can. Because those fetches are the ones that deal the most damage to me all the time. Fairly smoothly so far. We love spark on bounce, so obviously that's what I go with here. Gets even more projectiles flying around. I was kind of anticipating there would be a lot more enemies being thrown at us, so if I could get more particles flying around, that would work best. Creeps, you just gotta try and use cover as much as you can until you get your turn back. They don't deal out a lot of instant damage, it's more damage over time, so if you can get behind something, you can pretty much negate most of it. It's inevitable that you're always gonna take some damage from those enemies though. There's really just no way to dodge that beam effectively.
See what you get?
That's a pretty good example of how powerful bounce and purge can be. That was like basically covered the whole arena with particles that then basically poison the enemy, so that's definitely a really, really powerful combination. At least for dealing with multiple enemies, it is. So the music changed here, so I started getting kind of nervous. As I was doing this, all I was thinking was, I just don't want to waste people's time, and I would have to essentially edit this out, because, you know, I don't want to make people go through this twice in one playthrough, watching me fail this ridiculously long test. So the pressure was on, that's for sure. I don't know though, this time around it just felt a lot better. The whole fight just felt way smoother and yeah, just way better.
We're in business.
Just cleaning up this wave. Alright, it's not too bad, but 3 more to go. So we have tap now, which I didn't really like, but we do have void, so obviously we're going with void crash bounce. And yeah, I do put that's I think cell pull strength, I think that's where I use it. It's not, okay, no, I put it on void.
Moving right along.
We got the fetches coming in. So using void, I really start these last 3 waves using void as a defensive ability, just to really weaken the attack of these guys, because there's so many enemies that, and you're waiting so long for your turn that you really need to minimize the damage that you're taking. That wasn't quite enough to take that clucker out. Now we're in some trouble because we're about to lose one of our abilities in our super combo here. So again, just trying to be super defensive, but aggressive at the same time. So we lost bounce, which was just brutal. Like, I thought for sure it was over at this point. Like, there was no way I was going to be able to do this. But we stuck it out, and I think we ended up pulling it out. Here especially is where I had to use void just to avoid taking damage as much as possible. 'Cause you get caught in certain situations. Like right now, there's no cover, so I just had to use void just to weaken these guys so I wasn't taking any damage out in the open like this. You'll see that the enemies actually shrink when you void them that many times. It's trying to hit all three, but okay, I did end up. You can only get two at a time, yeah. So got through that one. It was a little close, but managed to pull it out. So we don't have bounce at all anymore. It's just gone. It's not even canceled out. It's just completely gone. So I put breach in there to, you know, kind of simulate the combo we're used to. Then yeah, I gave myself more life with tap as a passive. And help, I don't know, it's too random for a test. I needed something consistent, so I put Luna in, hoping she would be, you know, a distraction if anything.
Next round.
She turned out to be somewhat effective. So now we got the fetch 2.0s, which go invisible, which had me freaked right out. But there, Luna kind of showed her worth, because he wasn't chasing me. He was going after her the whole time. So you can see there, breach, when you basically void the shit out of them, it does a ton of damage. And here I saw that void could just, you know, completely limit the effectiveness of these guys, so I just slammed that on there. Again, using void defensively. I'm in the open, so I knew I'd be taking some hits out here, so just trying to minimize damage. Sometimes these guys evade your abilities, and I don't know if that's something that's just random or it has to do with your positioning, but I don't know, it's strange. It happens very rarely, but it does happen.
Catch this.
see Luna going to work there. Okay, so we're on to the last wave. So this is when I was very nervous because no one wants to get to the last wave and then fail it. These performance tests take so long to get through. Almost too long in my opinion, if I could, nitpick one thing about the game.
We're almost there.
But then again, I guess these are the big challenge parts of the game, is doing these tests, so.
Get lost.
Summoning Luna is kind of dangerous in these kind of situations. It takes so long, but you have to do it. You can't do it when you're using your time stop, so you have to do it kind of on the fly. So I don't know why the fetch got his health back. Maybe it was, I think it's the weeds actually. He ran over there and there's 3 of them. And I think they heal any enemies that run nearby, so that was kind of a pain in the ass. Yeah, I think that's what's going on there. I didn't notice it at the time actually, I'm just noticing it now. It's actually kind of amazing that I managed to get through this without noticing that. Looking back on it, I would have gone and taken those weeds out immediately. Just using cover as much as possible. That's pretty much to avoid the creeps. The bad cells really don't do that much damage. the snapshots, their abilities somewhat easy to dodge. When it's the creeps, you really gotta stay away from.
Hang on tight.
Holy.
Made it.
Even watching it back now, I'm realizing how long that friggin' test is. Wow.
Getting warmer.
Well, the good news is it was worth it because we got a level out of it. And we got Cull, which we've seen before, then Flood, which is projecting storm spheres that disintegrates targets in path. Which, as soon as I read that, I was pretty much sold on it. Disintegrating your enemies is always good. And you can regenerate life points, enhance functions. So I went with Flood. I think again I went with an upgrade slot. Just to even, power up the combo. And I think I went with not Abundance. I really don't like the idea of twin cells spawning extra enemies, so I went with Concentration. And we got Height Map, a new tune.
That was pro.
Thank you. Okay. So. Alright, guys. I'll catch you in the next episode. Video over.